Hi, everyone. Welcome to Freedom Friday. I am Raina, and I'm a recovery coach here at Capital Recovery Center. Today, we're going to be looking at an article from tinybuddha.com. This is written by Sonia Darian. So she writes it from the first person, view. So I'm going to be reading it as she's telling her story. But it starts off with a quote here, and it says, "I know but one freedom, and that is the freedom of the mind." And that's a very powerful feeling, to have freedom of the mind. So she starts out by saying, "I don't know about anyone else, but sometimes I can be a prisoner to my own thoughts and forget that I have the freedom to choose. Choose a different thought, choose a different experience, choose a different interpretation." And I like that because really, it might sound hard, but you do have the choice to change your thought patterns, to get away from negative thinking, to look at things from a different point of view. She goes on by saying, "I remember having a coach that used to listen to me rant. I would be sure I was the victim of something that was happening to me, and I would tell her all about it, expecting sympathy. She would listen patiently and then say, 'Yeah, and what's another way you could look at it?' I would pause to come up with some different interpretation. And then she would say, 'Good, and what's another way you could look at it?' I would really have to stress because I was sure that the first way I told her was the only way it happened." And that's, interpretation. We tend to look at things from our own point of view and not take into consideration that the situation might not be what we thought it was. I know a lot of times, and when I was in active addiction, I was always the victim. Everything was done to me. Everybody was against me. It was never my fault. And I had to learn how to step back and take a look at me. What's my part in it? And that's not an easy thing to do. But I like how she's the coach asked, is there another way you could look at this? And then ask the same question again, because the amount of interpretation between whoever is involved is going to be different for everybody. So she goes on to say, her point, of course, was that there are a number of ways you can interpret things, and we have to watch our stories, the stories we tell ourselves. How many of us are prisoners of our own thoughts, our own stories? I know I was. I definitely was. I still am sometimes. You get caught up in things, and, it's hard to get something out of your head, and it kind of takes you hostage. So this week I found myself going into a tailspin about something. And even though the situation justified my being upset, or at the very least feeling taken advantage of, I could have still looked at it in another way. If I was able to catch myself sooner, my experience about it would have changed. But I didn't. I was pissed off for a week, and it clouded my judgment about everything else and made me feel wronged, upset, and irritable. I finally decided by Thursday, as I took myself on a road trip, my form of meditation, to change my perspective." And I like that. She's like, "I'm pissed off all week. I feel wrong. I'm upset. I'm irritable, all these different things." And it's just something she's doing to herself, letting that situation rent space in our minds, and then torturing ourselves by letting it dictate how we feel and what we do. And that's a hard thing to get out of, you know what I mean? But it's also a hard place to be. So she says, "Because it always comes down to this, even when I have to make a choice for myself, who is controlling my life? Me or my thoughts?" I like that. Because if you think about it, is it really you who is doing the things you're doing, or is it your thoughts that are taking over and preventing you from doing things, or having you react in certain ways that normally wouldn't be who you are? So it says, "Sometimes my thoughts are just well-practiced habitual ways of thinking, but that doesn't always mean they are right. I have been at times a prisoner to my thoughts, but I've garnered enough awareness to know if what I am thinking is serving me or not. And when I get to this place, I have a decision to make. Which thought feels better? What interpretation serves me best?" Because honestly, things always work out for me, and I just got screwed can be equally true. Yeah, it's flipping that perspective. We can look at things from a negative point of view and, get stuck there and get angry. And, she says, it could be like, I could say, oh, I just got screwed. But you could always look at it another way and say, things will work out for me. We kind of have to be accepting of where we are in a situation and that we don't have any control of what goes on around us. We don't have any control of the way people, treat us or react to us or the situations we might be in, but we do have control to not let it take up that space in our heads, to not let it become an obsession or something that, is dictating the rest of your week. So she goes on and says, but which thought serves us better? Which one puts out the kind of energy we want to embrace in the world? Everything can be jumping off point for something new, if we are willing to choose that best interpretation and move forward. If I just got screwed, it means someone else takes domain over my life. And that is a stance that is not empowering. But if things work out for me, then I can dictate my life because I know my future holds a different experience. To come to this juncture where we can choose, where we have enough awareness to recognize that our thoughts do not run our life, that we can choose differently, this is freedom. And it truly is. I have learned how to not let every little thing bother me. I have, let go of, having to control everything around me. I still, I fall short, but I have had more freedom mentally, spiritually, emotionally than I've ever had. And that's all because I have put in some work to learn how to look at things differently, like what she's talking about in this article. So this is freedom of interpretation, freedom to dictate our own lives, freedom to choose thoughts that work for us, can liberate us from our own limiting self-made constructs. The other day, I got a call at 4 a.m. from a woman on the East Coast. We'd been emailing. She was going to be speaking at an event with me, and I happened to be awake. She called me to go over details instead of going back and forth with email. After we were done, she asked if she could give me a session, she's a healer, so I could experience her work on a personal level. So I said, yes, of course, why not? The session was short, 15 minutes, but we got the conversation that followed that had her talking about locus of control. She said if anyone wants to be successful, they have to maintain their focus of control. Bill Clinton maintains his focus of control. Donald Trump maintains his locus of control. Oprah Winfrey maintains her locus of control. She didn't have to elaborate. I knew what she was talking about. You can call it self-containment or self-direction. It's the ability to work with what has been handed to us and turn it into something else. And that's truly what it is. You've got to be able to handle the cards that you're dealt. And it's, having that freedom is like the ability to just accept what we know is handed to us and make the best of it. So we have the freedom to decide what we do with information, how we interpret our life, how we dictate our future, change our minds, or make decisions. All of it is a choice, our choice. And in choosing, we find freedom. One of my very first teachers used to tell me when I would be stuck in a rut, interpreting something, getting in my own way, she'd tell me, change your mind. It was such a novel concept. Change my mind. You mean there's another way to see this? Invariably, when I changed my mind, I had a new purview in that, a new experience, one of my own choosing. And I realized that I could do this in every area of my life and come out ahead. This is freedom. This is your freedom. So I really like this little article here. It has a great message. You know what I mean? It's all about choice. We can choose to sit in, the stink of our minds and, wallow in like self-pity and get caught up in situations that we have no control over, or we can choose to have freedom. And I don't know about you, but I like the freedom part a lot better. So it was a short one today, but thank you for joining us. And as always, please come see us, join in the groups. We love to have feedback and people engaging. But with that, I thank you guys for joining, and we will see you next